Over the years I've never been a great user of plug-in filters, although I do have one or two sets which I do quite like. I think many photographers make a mistake when they apply some of these third-party plug-in filters, particularly those that create monochrome type effects, because they apply them in place of correct image editing. Now, I always ask myself, how does the filter know where it's starting from? Because every picture you shoot is going to vary depending on your exposure and how much light there was around at the time, particularly with infrared. So what I do here is I create a completed image to my satisfaction, and then sometimes take a look and see if a third-party filter will take it to another level which I find appealing. And I'm warming greatly to a set of filters by Google Nik Filters. So here I'm going to give you just a little taste of what they can do. Let's open up this image. These are just a number of finished images from my other computer, so we'll open this up into Photoshop. I'll hit Ctrl+0 to fit the image on screen, and up to my filters menu, and I'm going to choose the Nik collection, and we'll choose the Silver Effects Pro 2. Now once the filter opens up, you may find it opens up on your screen looking something like that, so use the option here to fill the screen. It's always good to have a nice big image to view. If you look up on the left hand side, you can see there's a preset library. It contains 38 different presets in all, but it breaks them down into categories for us. So if we wanted to just look at the classics or the modern, or in our case the vintage, we can do so. To view the effect, we just need to select the thumbnail on the left, and the image accepts the change instantly. If I want to see a before and after, I've got options along the top left there, but I quite like to use the compare. I just click and hold the compare, so there's my before, there's my after. Now that one's a little bit on the dark side, but the good thing about these filters is if we see something that's 90% there, but we think this one looks good but maybe a little too dark, generally speaking the filters do give us an option on the right hand side to tweak those changes. In other words, we can accept the change that's offered, but we can make some changes ourselves to it. Let's select the next one, which is a soft sepia, and that looks pretty good too. I'm not going to go down all of these because it just would take up too much time, and I think it's quite good fun to do this anyway at some stage, but if I go down further here, there's one that creates quite a nice effect. It's called Yellow 2, number 34, and there you can see what it does on screen. Again, we get the opportunity, if we think it makes it a little too dark, to give it a little tweak to suit our own preferences. Now, one of the things you'll also notice is that particular filter comes complete with an edge effect, but you may not want the edge effect. So if we go down on the right hand side here, you sometimes may see the finishing adjustments tucked away. So if you see them like that, just drop down the little panel. There's the image borders. It's telling us that we're using type 11 edge effect. Now when I open all of these up, there's the options we have, 14 of them. And if I want to see the effect of any one, all I've got to do is a mouse over of any one of those, and I can see exactly what I'm going to get before I select it. But in my case, if I don't want one, I can turn that option off. Now we have a similar adjustment with burn edges, vignette, and also toning. The tone we're using is number 19. There's quite a number of them. And as I mouse over any of these, you can see the instant effect on the image. On this occasion, I think that one looks pretty good, so let's assume for the moment that we're going to accept that just as it is. I'll click to open this, and I'll allow the software to run its course, so you can see how much time it takes to do this. This computer I'm using is about 8 years old, so it's certainly not state-of-the-art, far from it. The image we're using is an 8-bit image, so it's not a 16-bit, so that speeds up things a little bit. but it is from a 20 megapixel camera. But there you can see how long it took to finally apply that filter effect. Now I brought you back into Photoshop's bridge because I'd like to open up another image. Here's an image from the Bliss Hill Museum in the UK. Control 0 will fit the image on screen. Filter, Nik Collection, and we're going to select Color Effects Pro 4. You will notice there are many other options here. It's not my intention to do an in-depth tutorial of these filters here, because to be honest, I haven't been using the filters long enough to do so. Now once the filter system opens up, you can see that once again there are a lot of them. We can look at them all, or we can break them down. I'm going to look at just the landscape because there's not so many of those, and I'm not going to go down all of these and look at them all. I'm going to look at just one that appealed to me with a previous image I did a couple of days ago, and it's called cross-processing. And when I select that, we do get a different sort of look to our infrared image. Now as a derivative of the one I produced, I quite like that. Let's just go back to the compare button. There's my original, a good contrasty black and white with a full range of tones there, but I like that too. But when we look at the option, it's called cross-processing. When I mouse over that or any of the others, you'll see a little symbol appears on the right hand side. If we check that, we almost get a derivative of the derivative. You'll see what I mean when I click it. There's the one we've got on screen as the main default, but I've got some variations on a theme here. This one's quite a lot different, and there's a few others. And we've got a selection like that with every one of those filters. But if we're happy with the one we started with, we can go back and we can just select our cross-processing, and once again here we get some options on the right hand side to make adjustments. But what I think we're looking at here is in fact a duotone. I'm sure we are. Let's click OK and we'll see how long this one takes to appear on screen. Remember, working on a pretty old computer here, high resolution image, and we'll just let the processing take its course. Saving image is the last section, so there we have it. Now when you first install the Nik software plugins, you do get the opportunity to have any of the filter effects applied to a separate layer. If I take you back to my layers now, there you can see we've got two layers. Now I never created those, the Nik software did that for me. So in effect it's left me with my original, and it's given me the cross-processing that I wanted. Now I find this extremely useful because quite often with any sort of plug-in filters, whether they're artistic style or monochrome style like these are, or even duotones, sometimes I find I get an even better effect, or I like to have the opportunity to try this by dropping down the opacity of the affected layer so that I can lessen the impact of it wherever I feel there's a need. Now in this situation I don't think there is. So if you do select that option in the default, then at some stage of course just remember to flatten the image to save your derivative. Now just to bring this section to a close, let's take a look at one other set. Filter, Nik Collection, Analog Effects Pro, but it's going to look much the same as the others. Presets on the left and some variation on the right. So here we have Classic Camera and a number of options down here which are applied in the same way as we looked at previously. Taking just a few more seconds here. But via this little arrow here we can go to another lot of options. Look. So you can see that these filters offer you plenty of hours of entertainment on those winter evenings. When you do start to look around, you can see there's an awful lot to choose from. We have frames here. If I just select them, for example, the frames will all open up on the right hand side, and there we have a series of frames. There's lots more here. White, light box, film strip is the default. Let's just select one. There it is applied. Let's click OK to open that up into Photoshop, and we'll see how long it takes to apply that, because we're applying two sections here. We had a sort of a blue tone effect, and we also had the edge effect. Now I think edge effects can be very useful, but like all things we need to apply them sparingly, and I feel a little bit like a disc jockey here talking over the intro of a record, waiting for the image to appear on screen.